Hey, thanks for sitting in. I'm here with Vita DeVoid today, a friend of mine that I've known for quite some time. I have booked her here in Jacksonville for some amazing burlesque shows, and I wanted to get her on the channel to talk about what she's been up to before we met, during the time we met, and during the pandemic. So I guess sort of give us the cliff notes, if you could, on the story of becoming Vita before we met.
Well, it has been said that living in the swamps of Florida causes some mystical things to occur when you're bored enough and weird enough. And sometimes you can turn being weird into a career. That is how I became Vita DeVoid.
So, I mean,
Yeah, I was,
are you
I was
from
just
Tampa
bored.
originally? Are you from Tampa originally, or did you locate there for?
I was raised in Vero Beach, which is a tiny town I've also never heard of. I've never heard of it. I lived there until I was like 19. Very, very small town, incredibly restrictive socially on who you can be and what you can be. And I dreamt of bigger things. So when I was, I think like 19, turning 20, I moved over to Tampa and started working in nightlife.
Nice. What were some of your first performances that you got started in? Did you start with burlesque, or did you do anything else?
So I was actually a ballroom dance competition performer. So I did a lot of swing dance and ballroom dance and like improv comedy. So I was doing a lot of not like stand up, but I was emceeing some little things here and there as a show host. And then there was really no burlesque at this point. This was like 2002. So you were either a go-go dancer, stripper, or a fetish performer. You didn't, there was really nothing else. There was nothing else to do.
Right.
No, there was no industry.
Right.
So I just kind of started working in these bars that had stages and drag shows and strip clubs and things like that, and started kind of putting together ideas for shows. And it kind of started in the strip clubs, like just like it did it for, the modern burlesque industry. It all came from strip clubs. But kind of morphed into working in the drag bars and being offered like performance nights. If some of the queens weren't available, they'd give me a little spot on stage for a couple minutes and just do some cute old-timey golden age coochie coochie dancing. It was fun.
And how the crowds received it well back?
Yeah, they did
Did you
actually. It
have to
was,
build up to get them used to what you were doing, or to go, hey, look, this is
yeah.
something doing awesome?
Well, what was happening was people were so used to that the girls on stage only being fetish performers, so they all thought that I was going to get up there and like dildo myself, in like a pony outfit. And
Right.
I had to kind of take a couple of years, and like any of my performers that were heavily known in the fetish world, I kind of had to ask them like, hey, are you going to be okay with like changing this up a little bit and doing like fluffy feathery stuff? And it eventually worked out. It was just kind of a collaborative effort to try to retrain the way people thought about women in nightlife, because either we were like super like we're doing porn, or I'm just wearing a gown and prancing around with a hairdo. So it was really hard to get that, or to come around. I think the acceptance of it to come around, but mostly it was women in our audiences that really went for it first. The guys, it took a little longer because they're just there to see some nasty shit. But
Right.
the women were just like, oh my God, she's fabulous. Look at her. Oh my God. And all the drag queens were just like freaking out because it was glamorous and pretty and rhinestoney, and there's costumes and all this fabulous stuff. So it was mostly like people's wives and drag queens that really embraced it first and kind of helped lift it up.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it took a long time to get it going. I think up here in Jacksonville, to get people acclimated to what was going on, what was happening. And then once they
Just
did, they got it.
think because any of the performances I did do in Jacksonville, were those audiences made me feel like I was a fucking rock star. Like it's so well received there. Like that was one of my favorite cities to ever perform in, was Jacksonville. Any of the venues over there were just, the crowds were so enthusiastic about it and really, really supportive. And I think it's one of those things where it's a city that didn't really have a lot of that. It was either like live music, or again, like there were just fetish shows, which were
Right.
great, like legendary fetish shows, but it's like there's room for something else.
Right. Absolutely. And you've done a ton of characters, a ton of different awesome characters. So name, if you wouldn't mind, name some of your favorites that you've performed, that people could look for and find on your social
Oh,
media.
Lucille Ball is probably the number one. That one, It's funny because that act was really slappy. Like it's a picnic table that I turned into a dress and like one of those science fair fold out boards for my little table. It's a Vita Vegemin act.
Right, right.
And it started as a joke. I don't know. I guess my face is really expressive on stage. So people were like, God, you're kind of like I Love Lucy, but like Tracy Ullman doing I Love Lucy. So I kind of went with that. But that act, there's no glamour. It's not like a dance. There's no music. It's just the Vita Vegemin episode of I Love Lucy. But that took me all over the country.
Sound from the show, right?
It's the actual show. Yeah, it's just the audio from the show. There's no music at all. There's no dancing. It's like a theatrical piece.
Right.
But I was being booked for burlesque festivals across the continent, and I'd show up with this like slappy, boring, like drab gray dress on and like a cardboard prop, and there's these girls rolling in with like $20,000 worth of props and gowns, and it's like, I don't feel like I belong here. But I mean, it's a comedy bit, so it was well received everywhere. That's probably the number one. Like I'll always do Lucy.
Right.
I don't know. It's the most fun. I do a lot of David Bowie.
That's
a lot of David Bowie. I've got like 4 or 5 different Bowies that I perform as. I actually taught myself contact juggling just so I could do a Goblin King performance. That was really a pain in the ass. It's hard.
Right.
And I'll do like anything that a show requires. It's not like I have these acts built and I just market them to a show, which is the smart thing to do. But I'll see if a show has a cool theme and I'll kind of say, hey, do you need somebody to be like a green alien tree lady?
Right.
I could probably do that for you.
Are there any that you've regretted getting yourself into, that they've been so difficult, even though you may have loved the character or anything like that, that you were like, oh, wow.
Probably Hellboy.
Oh, really?
I did a Hellboy. And I had to always hire, it was all body paint, like that and Darth Talon. That was a nightmare because the headgear is so heavy. She's essentially a Twi'lek, so it's this heavy piece of headgear that was built into like a flight cap, like a pilot's flight cap. So it was like strapped on me like a helmet. But the damn thing weighs like 15 pounds and it's a lot of weight on your head and neck. So I'm sore for a couple of days, but the body paint stains me red.
Oh, really?
And it's really hard. Yeah, it's really hard to get off. So if I do any kind of like nerdy conventions like Dragon Con with that, that's the last thing I can do for the week because I'm going to be stained pinky red. Horrible. And I love being these characters, but it's just the process is a nightmare. Ugh.
Right. Are there any good lessons that you've learned along the way that made you a better performer, that you think you could pass on to a newer?
You can learn from everyone around you, regardless of their experience level. So if you go into a place where you're the most experienced and you're working around people that are brand new, chances are you're going to pick some tricks up from them that you wouldn't have thought, and you're going to learn some really rewarding things from them. Like always keep yourself really super, super humble and at a level where you can soak up information around you and adapt and build and grow and be better and better. Like don't go into a venue when you're the hot shit for the night, the headliner, like the top billed act, and act like that. It's don't act like a shit.
Right.
Don't act like a shit. I've absolutely banned people from appearing in my stages for being an asshole. So don't be an asshole.
Well, learning is a never-ending process. So cheers.
It's very, very important. Yeah, you can be the most beautiful girl in the room, but if you have a shitty attitude, it's not going to get you anywhere.
Right. Well, and you got Tampa, or you got lured away from Tampa by LA. So tell me a little bit about what brought you out there.
Well, it was a couple of things. I was just getting bored. I feel like being bored always kind of fueled me to grow and do other things. Just like leaving my hometown, I outgrew it. I don't know. I couldn't really do anything else new. I couldn't grow anymore. I had performed in every venue I could have possibly booked in. I had learned every act in Florida that I could possibly learn. I don't know. I just needed something else. I actually moved to San Diego first. I was in San Diego for about 1.5 years, and it just seemed like I needed a break to kind of reevaluate what I was going to do next. So I just kind of locked myself in this really pretty house in some hillsides in Escondido and just kind of stared at a wall for about 1 year. Like, what the fuck do I do now? anything else. And then I started working in some drag shows in San Diego with a couple of really amazing people, and then was booking up in LA probably 2 or 3 times a month. I wasn't booking nearly as much as I was in Florida. That was like a 7 night a week for 20 years thing. And I couldn't do it anymore. Too many weird attitudes. I don't know, in Florida. It's a lot of that. But I don't know, LA just was always really, really embracing. Yeah, LA is just kind of more embracing. It's a little more welcoming, I think, to people that have some kind of odd talent. There's a lot less racism here, which is really nice. Everyone gets along, it seems, which I really do like. It's not something I'm familiar with in the South. People are more embracing of foreign cultures. I think that's really cool. I don't know, there's a lot more variety out here, I think, and that's what I really wanted. Yeah.
Nice. And you ended up hooking with people like Terrence Dunich to do the like the Blood Travelers tour and stuff. How'd you guys meet up? And
We met at Spooky Empire convention in Orlando. My friend Frank, he does Shadowcast for Repo Genetic Opera.
oh, okay.
And he actually introduced us. I'm not sure if Terrence had come to see one or two of my shows, because I was also running burlesque shows for that convention too. But I think it had something to do with my ass. I don't know. It's like I think I heard like a booming voice from the sky, like, "That's a great ass." And I turned around and there he was, and I'm like, "Yeah, it is. What's up?" But we just kind of became friends through the convention. We kept running into each other at different spots here and there. All of our friends seemed to know each other. So they were, I think at that point, they were just finishing The Devil's Carnival, which is a really, really cool like gothic rock opera with just a lot of circusy stuff, and it's kind of what I come from, so it's really nice. And their tour manager is a friend of mine. She's also a circus performer and burlesque performer, so we all kind of connected that way. And just that was right after the hurricane happened with that Blood Travelers tour. It was a sort of, I think it was their second tour for a project they were doing called American Murder Song. And it was true tales of murder and cannibalism in the American frontier. So it was really cool. And some of the tour was actually along the same wagon trail as the Donner Party. So it was kind of like this historically educational production, and it was really, really creative. Like our set, I actually got to help build it. It was the inside of this big wagon, like touring along the frontier, like documenting crime. It was really, really neat. But yeah, it was really fun that I joined that tour because I was kind of hunkered down from hurricanes destroying Tampa. So I needed to get the hell out of town. So that's what I did. And then while I was on tour, decided, you know what, this is it. I'm going to just leave. It's a good time for me to bow out and move on. So
where can people go find your jewelry online? Is it just on Etsy, or do you have a website that combines all of your stuff together right now that you're doing?
You know, Etsy, I actually was advised against doing it because they take so much of the money from sellers. And what they've been doing lately is they'll snatch photos from your goods and promote them all over the place and charge you for that promotion that you didn't ask them to do.
Wow.
They just like suck money out of your shit. It's really awful. So I sell on Instagram. I have an Instagram page called Bloodstone Emporium, and everything is listed there. How to buy everything is listed underneath every single item. Like, send me a message to order this, we'll talk about it. So it's super easy. Everything can be customizable. So it's having an actual shop where it's like, this is what this item looks like. It's probably not what that item is going to look like, because you have options. So I mean, I've got a billion colors of everything in the world, and glitters and all kinds of inclusions and things and beads and stuff. So yeah, just like if you see something you like on there, just send me a message and we'll talk about how you want it done. Like, hey, do you have this in blue? It's like, I can.
Awesome. Well, we'll put the link on the video and make sure people can head your way to go buy some stuff online for you. And, well, I appreciate you doing this, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.